The massive alien ship appeared over New York on a crisp October morning. Its sleek, crystalline surface reflected the sunrise, creating rainbow patterns across the city's skyscrapers. The world held its breath, but humanity's military leaders just smiled. They had been waiting for this day. Admiral Stone stood at the United Nations podium, his weathered face betraying no emotion as he watched the Imperial ambassador float down from their transport. The alien was tall, with iridescent skin and flowing robes that seemed to defy gravity. Behind Stone, the assembled world leaders maintained perfect composure, just as they had rehearsed for decades. "Greetings, people of Earth," the ambassador's translation device echoed through the chamber. "We come representing the Grand Galactic Empire, spanning 10,000 systems and 50,000 years of peaceful civilization." Stone noticed the subtle emphasis on peaceful and suppressed a smirk. The Empire's intelligence was exactly as flawed as they had hoped. The ambassador continued, "We have watched your civilization's progress with great interest. Your rapid advancement from primitive technology to basic space travel is impressive. We believe you are ready to join our community of worlds." The alien produced a holographic document, floating it in the air. "These are our standard terms for protectorate status. You will receive limited access to our technology, guided development, and protection from hostile forces. In return, Earth will acknowledge imperial authority and contribute resources to the greater good." Stone stepped forward, his voice calm and measured. "Ambassador, we thank you for your generous offer." He paused, letting the tension build. "However, there seems to be a misunderstanding." The ambassador's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Misunderstanding?" "Yes," Stone continued. "You see, Earth doesn't accept terms." His smile grew slightly wider. "We give them." The chamber's lights dimmed suddenly. Above the ambassador's ship, the sky rippled as hundreds of human warships dropped their cloaking fields. Each was twice the size of the Imperial vessel, their hulls covered in weapons that even the Empire's advanced sensors hadn't detected. The ambassador's translator crackled as they stepped back. This is impossible. Your civilization only achieved primitive chemical rockets 50 years ago." Stone laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Did we? How interesting that your intelligence suggested that." He pressed a button on the podium, and holographic displays sprang to life around the chamber. They showed massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, weapons platforms disguised as space debris, and fleets of warships emerging from gas-giant atmospheres where they had waited patiently. "Humanity detected your Empire's scout ships 300 years ago," Stone explained. "Every technological advancement we display publicly was carefully calculated. Every satellite launch, every space station, every lunar mission. All theater for your watching eyes." The ambassador's composure cracked. But why?" "Because," Stone said, walking down from the podium, "humanity learned long ago that true power lies not in showing strength, but in having others underestimate you until it's too late. Your empire saw what it wanted to see, a young, promising species ready to be guided and controlled." He stood before the ambassador, hands clasped behind his back. "Instead, you found something else. Humanity united not by your arrival, but by the mere possibility of it generations ago. Every child for 3 centuries has been raised knowing this day would come. Every scientific breakthrough, every military advance, every diplomatic alliance, all preparation for this moment." The chamber fell silent as Stone delivered humanity's real terms. "The Empire has 2 choices. Peaceful integration into the new order with Earth at its head, or the demonstration of just how prepared we really are." He smiled again, and this time it reached his eyes. "We've had centuries to plan this conversation, Ambassador. What's your answer?" The ambassador looked up at the devastating array of firepower above their ship, then at the calm, confident faces of Earth's leaders. In that moment, they realized a terrible truth. They hadn't discovered humanity. Humanity had been hunting them all along. The Imperial Palace on Centaurus Prime was in chaos. Intelligence Director Vale paced the marble floors of the Grand Analysis Chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's history. Each new discovery made their scales pale further. "How did we miss this?" Vale whispered, staring at the excavation reports. What they had initially dismissed as simple ruins now told a much darker story. Earth's archaeological sites didn't show the gradual rise of civilization. They showed victory after victory, conquest after conquest, until only one culture remained standing. An analyst rushed in, holding a data crystal. "Director, we found something in their entertainment archives." The holographic screens shifted to show thousands of human movies and games. Each one depicted warfare, strategy, and conquest. What they had dismissed as primitive fantasy was actually a training tool. Every child on Earth grew up playing simulations of space combat, learning tactics that would work against Imperial fleets. These humans, Vale said, watching a simulation of planetary invasion, they'd been preparing their entire population for war since before we found them. Another analyst spoke up from their station. "Director, look at their weapons development timeline." The display showed a frightening pattern. Humanity hadn't developed technology in the normal, scattered way of young species. Every advancement built perfectly on the last, like pieces of a puzzle fitting together. Their primitive rockets weren't clumsy attempts at spaceflight. They were clever decoys, hiding the true state of human technology. Vale pulled up the original first contact reports. The humans' reaction to meeting the Empire had seemed perfect, just the right mix of awe and hesitation. Too perfect, they now realized. Like actors performing a well-rehearsed play. "Get me the High Command," Vale ordered. "They need to see this immediately." But the Imperial High Command, meeting in their Grand Strategy Chamber, didn't share Vale's concerns. Admiral Bright, the Empire's most decorated commander, laughed at the reports. "You're worried about a species that only recently learned to split the atom. Our smallest scout ship could destroy their largest cities." "That's just it," Vale insisted, pulling up more data. "Look at their nuclear program. They developed it, demonstrated it twice, then supposedly stopped advancing it. No species does that. Unless they wanted us to think they had stopped," General Dawn finished, finally starting to understand. Vale nodded. "Everything we know about humans comes from what they wanted us to see. Their public broadcasts, their visible military, their apparent technological level. It's all theater." The evidence was mounting. Human satellites that were too perfectly positioned to be simple communication devices. Space debris that emitted no signals but always seemed to drift near Imperial trade routes. The way human ships always stayed just within the boundaries the Empire expected, never showing their true capabilities. "There's more," Vale said, voice shaking. "We found their genetic records. Humans have been selectively breeding themselves for centuries, enhancing traits like pattern recognition, spatial awareness, and strategic thinking. They're not just preparing their technology for war, they're preparing their entire species." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire had encountered many young civilizations before, but never one that had spotted them first and spent generations preparing for the encounter. Admiral Bright's communicator suddenly chimed. The message made his face turn pale. 3 of our outer monitoring stations just went dark. Simultaneously. Vale closed their eyes. "It's starting. They're not the primitive species we thought we were going to guide. They're predators who spent centuries studying our weaknesses, building weapons specifically designed to counter our technology, and preparing their entire civilization for this moment." General Dawn looked at the tactical display, where more Imperial stations were going dark. "How many other things have we misinterpreted? How many of our assumptions about Earth were carefully crafted lies?" "We're about to find out," Vale said, watching as the first reports of human warships began flooding in. "And I fear we're not going to like the answers." The Imperial outpost on Rigel 7 never saw the attack coming. One moment, their sensors showed empty space. The next, 3 massive human warships appeared directly above the planet's defense platforms. Before the Imperial commander could even sound an alarm, precision strikes had disabled every major military installation on the surface. Similar scenes played out across 50 Imperial systems simultaneously. Earth's hidden fleets, built in secret shipyards throughout unexplored space, struck with devastating efficiency. Each attack followed the same pattern: appear, disable, occupy. No wasted movements, no unnecessary destruction. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of the flagship Humanity's Dawn, watching tactical displays show green confirmation signals from every strike team. 3 centuries of preparation were paying off perfectly. "Status report," he ordered, his voice calm despite the historic moment. "Sir, all primary targets neutralized," his tactical officer reported. "Imperial defense networks are blind in sectors 1 through 12. Their communication relays are under our control. Phase 1 complete." Stone nodded. The Empire's biggest weakness had always been its reliance on standardized defense systems. While they saw this standardization as a sign of unity, humanity had recognized it as a critical flaw, one that they had spent generations learning how to exploit. In the Empire's central command center, alarms blared as system after system went dark. General Dawn stared in horror at the tactical display, watching Imperial strongholds fall like dominoes. "Impossible," Dawn whispered. "They're using weapons we've never seen before. Our shields, they're not just failing, they're being completely ignored." A junior officer rushed in with new reports. "Sir, the humans, they're not just attacking military targets. They're seizing our shipyards, our supply lines, our jump gates. It's like they know exactly where everything is." "Because they do," Intelligence Director Vale said, entering the chamber. "Remember all those primitive space probes they sent out? The ones we ignored because they seemed so harmless. They were mapping our entire empire, piece by piece." On Earth, Director Wells sat in the Global Command Center, coordinating the simultaneous strikes. Holographic screens showed hundreds of battles unfolding across space. But they weren't really battles. They were carefully orchestrated takedowns, planned and practiced for generations. "Team 7 reports Imperial Sector 4 is secure," an operator announced. "Their automated defenses have been reprogrammed with our override codes." Wells smiled. Those override codes had been planted in Imperial systems decades ago, hidden in seemingly innocent trade data and civilian communications. The Empire's arrogance had made them careless with their security, never imagining that a primitive species could understand their technology, let alone subvert it. Back on the flagship, Admiral Stone received word that the first phase was complete. All targeted systems were under human control, their Imperial defenders disarmed and contained. Not a single human ship had been lost. "Begin Phase 2, Stone ordered. "Deploy the occupation forces." Across conquered Imperial space, massive transport ships emerged from hyperspace. These weren't military vessels. They carried civilian administrators, engineers, and governance experts, humans who had trained their entire lives to take control of alien worlds. "Sir," his communication officer called out, "we're receiving surrender offers from 15 Imperial worlds that weren't even on our target list. They're requesting to join Earth's authority voluntarily." Stone allowed himself a small smile. This, too, had been predicted. The Empire's outer worlds, tired of central control, would see Earth's efficiency and organized conquest as an attractive alternative. "Accept their surrenders," Stone commanded. "Implement Protocol Echo 7 for voluntary submissions." As reports of success continued to pour in, Stone thought about how the Empire still didn't understand. This wasn't just a military victory. Every aspect, from the precision strikes to the immediate administrative takeover, showed the galaxy something new. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war, they had prepared for absolute dominion. The first strike was over, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial Grand Fleet assembled near the core systems, 10,000 warships strong. It was the largest military force ever gathered in the Empire's 50,000-year history. Admiral Bright stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the massive fleet prepare for battle. "This will end these upstart humans," he declared to his officers. "They may have caught us off guard, but no primitive species can stand against the full might of the Imperial fleet." The human monitoring station picked up the fleet's movement instantly. In Earth's strategic command, Director Wells watched the Imperial ships through countless hidden sensors. "Right on schedule," he said, checking his notes. "They're following battle pattern 6 from our predictions, exactly as their military doctrine demands." Admiral Stone's voice came through the command channel. "Conventional wisdom says we should retreat from such overwhelming force." There was amusement in his voice. Fortunately, humanity has never cared much for conventional wisdom. The Imperial fleet jumped into human-controlled space, expecting to find chaos and disorganization. Instead, they found empty systems. No human ships, no active defense stations, nothing. "Where are they?" Admiral Bright demanded. "Our intelligence said they were consolidating here." His answer came in the form of a massive gravity wave that rippled through space. Suddenly, the Imperial fleet's formation was disrupted, ships pulled in different directions by invisible forces. "Gravity weapons," an officer shouted. "They're using artificial gravity fields to break our formation." Human ships appeared from behind cloaked positions, but they weren't engaging directly. Instead, they were hurting the Imperial ships, using gravitational weapons to force them into predetermined positions. "This isn't a battle," Intelligence Director Vale realized, watching from the command center. "It's an ambush. They're not fighting our fleet. They're processing it, like a factory processes raw materials." One by one, Imperial ships found themselves isolated, cut off from support, and faced with a choice: surrender or be disabled by precisely targeted weapons that ignored their shields completely. Admiral Bright watched in horror as his grand fleet was systematically dismantled. How? How are they doing this? The answer came from his tactical officer. "Sir, these tactics, they're counters to every standard Imperial fleet movement. It's like they've practiced this exact battle thousands of times." In truth, they had. For 3 centuries, humans had run simulations of this very encounter. They had built their entire military doctrine around defeating the Empire's rigid tactical procedures. From his flagship, Admiral Stone coordinated the operation with calm efficiency. Status report on Phase 4. 80% of Imperial ships have been neutralized, his tactical officer reported. Minimal damage to captured vessels. They'll be ready for refit with human crews within the week. Stone nodded. That was the true brilliance of the human battle plan. They weren't just defeating the Imperial fleet. They were capturing it largely intact, ready to be turned against the Empire itself. In the Imperial Palace, General Dawn received the impossible reports. The Grand Fleet, pride of the Empire, was surrendering en masse. Decades of military doctrine had been turned against them by an enemy who had spent centuries studying their every move. "Our strongest weapons," Dawn muttered. "Our most advanced shields, our proudest ships. They prepared countermeasures for all of them before we even knew they existed." The final phase of the battle began. Human ships, now supported by captured and reprogrammed Imperial vessels, began systematic cleanup operations. Every Imperial ship was either captured or disabled. Not a single vessel escaped to warn the core systems. Admiral Stone sent a brief message to Earth Command. Phase 4 complete. Fleet assets secured. Proceeding to core systems. As the human forces reorganized for their push toward the Imperial core worlds, Admiral Bright sat in his captured flagship, finally understanding the truth. The Empire hadn't lost a battle. They had fallen into a trap centuries in the making. The age of the Empire was over. The era of humanity had begun. In the deepest level of the Imperial archives, Intelligence Director Vale stared at a holographic display with growing horror. The file in front of them was 300 years old, a routine scan of the Sol system, filed away and forgotten. But what Vale saw in that file changed everything. "Play it again," they ordered. The recording showed a small Imperial scout ship passing through Earth's outer solar system. As it passed Jupiter, something tracked it, something that shouldn't have existed in a primitive system. "Stop. Enhance that sector." Vale pointed at a seemingly empty patch of space. The computer revealed a faint energy signature, almost invisible. A human sensor array, watching, recording, learning, 3 centuries ago. "They saw us coming," Vale whispered. "They saw us before we ever knew they existed." In the Imperial War Room, General Dawn received Vale's urgent transmission. The evidence was undeniable. Human civilization hadn't developed naturally. It had evolved with a single purpose: preparing for war with the Empire. "Look at their history," Vale's hologram explained. "Every major technological advancement, every scientific breakthrough, every cultural shift, it was all directed toward space warfare." The displays showed centuries of human development. Their first computers, designed to calculate spacecraft trajectories. Their internet, built to share military knowledge globally. Even their entertainment focused on space combat and galactic conquest. Their space program wasn't primitive, Dawn realized. Those clumsy rockets, those basic satellites, they were a cover. They were showing us what they wanted us to see. On Earth, Director Wells walked through a massive underground facility that stretched for miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. Row after row of advanced ships, weapons, and technology lined the chambers, all developed in secret, all far beyond what the Empire thought humans possessed. 300 years ago, Wells explained to the captured Admiral Bright, "We detected your scout ship. Instead of panicking, humanity made a choice. We would prepare, not just our military, not just our technology, but our entire species." They passed chambers filled with training simulators, exact copies of Imperial technology, and holographic battle plans refined over generations. Every human child for the past 3 centuries has grown up knowing about the Empire, Wells continued. Every game they played, every story they read, every film they watched, all designed to prepare them for this moment. Admiral Bright looked at the vast preparation with a mix of fear and awe. "But why? Why not just contact us? We could have been allies." Wells smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Because humanity learned long ago that true allies are rare, but conquered enemies can be very loyal. We studied your Empire's history, how you guided younger species, how you protected them while keeping them dependent on your technology." In the Imperial Palace, Vale made another discovery that sent chills through their scales. Human genetic records showed centuries of subtle enhancement. Each generation slightly stronger, slightly smarter, slightly better at strategic thinking. They weren't just building weapons, Vale reported to the Imperial Council. They were building themselves into the perfect soldiers, the perfect commanders, the perfect conquerors. The council chamber fell silent as the full truth became clear. The Empire hadn't discovered a young species ready for guidance. They had walked into the trap of a patient predator that had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. Director Wells led Admiral Bright to one final chamber. It contained a single holographic display showing Earth's grand strategy, developed 300 years ago. Step 1. Detect the Empire. Step 2. Study their every weakness. Step 3. Develop countermeasures while appearing primitive. Step 4. Wait for them to come to us. Step 5. Take everything. Wells turned to the captured admiral. "We're currently on Step 5. Would you like to guess what Step 6 is?" The admiral looked at the display, at 3 centuries of patient preparation, and finally understood. Humanity hadn't just planned to defeat the Empire. They had planned to replace it. The imperial capital's defenses fell in exactly 6 hours. Not through brutal warfare or massive casualties, but through precise, calculated strikes that left infrastructure intact and civilians unharmed. Admiral Stone watched from his command ship as human forces systematically disabled the planet's defensive grid. Another textbook operation, he noted, checking the casualty reports. 0 human losses. Minimal Imperial military casualties. Everything going according to plans written generations ago. In the Imperial Palace, General Dawn watched helplessly as humanity's true military doctrine became clear. They weren't conquerors in the traditional sense. They were more like surgeons, cutting away resistance with precise, calculated moves. "My lord," an aide reported, 17 more systems have surrendered without a fight. They're requesting immediate integration into the human administration system. Dawn wasn't surprised. News had spread quickly about how human forces operated. Worlds that surrendered peacefully found themselves under efficient, fair administration within days. Those that resisted faced not destruction, but inevitable defeat followed by the same efficient administration. Director Wells stood in the Imperial Senate chamber, now repurposed as Earth's local command center. Holographic displays showed the status of hundreds of former Imperial worlds. Green lights dominated the map, each one representing a smoothly transitioned planet. "Status report," he ordered. "Sir, implementation of Protocol 7 is proceeding ahead of schedule," his assistant reported. "Former Imperial bureaucrats are adapting well to human administrative systems. Efficiency is up 40% across all sectors." Wells nodded. This was why humanity had spent so much time studying the Empire. They didn't just want to defeat it. They wanted to run it better than it had ever run itself. On a mid-level Imperial world, local Governor Reed observed the transition process. Human administrators worked alongside former Imperial officials, showing them new systems, new methods, new ways of thinking. The efficiency was stunning. "Your people," an Imperial official said to Reed, "you're not just replacing our systems, you're improving them." "Of course," Reed replied. "We've had centuries to analyze every flaw in Imperial administration. Why do you think we waited so long to reveal ourselves? We weren't just building weapons, we were preparing to run an empire." Back in the former Imperial capital, Admiral Stone met with his command staff. The holographic displays showed the remaining Imperial resistance, small, scattered, and shrinking by the hour. "Interesting reports from the outer systems," his intelligence officer noted. "Several independent alien civilizations are requesting membership in our new administration. They've seen how we operate." Stone allowed himself a small smile. This too had been predicted. Earth's analysts had long ago realized that the Empire's inefficiency and bureaucracy had frustrated many species. Humanity's demonstration of competence was proving to be as effective as their military might. In their detention cell, Admiral Bright watched recordings of human forces dismantling Imperial defense networks. There was no wasted effort, no unnecessary destruction. Every move served multiple purposes. Every victory created new opportunities. "We never stood a chance," Bright said to Director Vale, who sat with him watching the footage. "We thought we were the sophisticated ones, the advanced civilization. But look at them. Every action calculated, every consequence considered, every outcome planned for." Vale nodded slowly. "They're not just winning battles. They're implementing systems they designed centuries ago. While we thought they were learning to split atoms, they were planning how to run a galactic civilization." The final phase of the Empire's collapse came not with a bang, but with a series of efficient administrative transitions. World after world, system after system, the old order was replaced by something new, something that worked better. In Earth's Strategic Command, Director Wells received the final reports. The Empire, which had stood for 50,000 years, had been completely transformed in less than 6 months. "Begin Phase 7, he ordered. The real work, building humanity's vision of galactic civilization, was about to begin. 1 year after the fall of the Imperial capital, the Grand Chamber of the newly established Terran Dominion buzzed with activity. Representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered to witness humanity's final revelation about their centuries-long plan. Admiral Stone stood at the central podium, looking out at the assembled delegates. Former Imperial worlds, independent systems, and even species that had once feared the Empire now sat together under Earth's banner. Members of the Galactic Council, Stone began. Today we share the complete truth about humanity's grand strategy. Not just why we conquered the Empire, but why we spent 3 centuries preparing to run it. The holographic displays activated, showing Earth's history from a new perspective. Every major decision, every technological advancement, every cultural shift, all part of a single master plan. Project Legacy, Stone explained, began the day we detected the Empire's scout ship. Our ancestors faced a choice: reveal ourselves as a primitive species and accept Imperial guidance, or prepare to take control of the galaxy. They chose the latter. In the audience, former Imperial Director Vale watched with growing understanding. The humans hadn't just planned for war. They had planned for peace. Every system they implemented, every change they made, had been designed and tested long before they revealed themselves. Look at your worlds now, Stone continued. Trade is up 300%. Scientific advancement has accelerated across all sectors. Poverty rates are dropping. Disease is being eradicated. This isn't just conquest, it's optimization. The statistics displayed on massive screens. Former imperial worlds were flourishing under human administration. The bureaucracy that had stifled progress for millennia had been replaced by efficient systems designed by generations of human planners. Director Wells stood in his office in the Terran Command Center, watching the broadcast while reviewing reports from across the Dominion. Green lights blinked across the galactic map, each one representing a successfully transformed world. Final integration report, his assistant announced. The last Imperial holdout systems have requested membership in the Dominion. Our efficiency speaks louder than any weapon. Wells nodded. This was the true victory. Not that humanity had conquered the galaxy, but that they had made it work better than ever before. On a former Imperial core world, Governor Reed hosted a delegation of alien species that had once been Empire's enemies. They came not to fight, but to learn how humans had achieved what seemed impossible. Your species, one alien delegate said, you didn't just defeat the Empire. You improved it. How long did you plan this? Reed smiled. Every human alive today had ancestors who worked on this project. We weren't just born into it. We were bred for it. Every generation slightly better at administration, at strategy, at seeing the bigger picture. In the Grand Chamber, Admiral Stone revealed humanity's final secret. A holographic display showed Earth's original planning chamber from 3 centuries ago. The first humans who had spotted the Empire and made their choice. Our ancestors knew something fundamental about power, Stone explained. True dominion doesn't come from weapons or ships. It comes from making things work so well that resistance becomes illogical. The audience watched in awe as centuries of human preparation unfolded before them. The hidden technological advances, the carefully planned social engineering, the patiently developed administrative systems, all waiting for this moment. The Terran Dominion, Stone declared, is not just a replacement for the Empire. It is the fulfillment of humanity's 300-year promise to the galaxy, not just to conquer it, but to perfect it. As the assembly erupted in applause, former Admiral Bright leaned over to Vale. You know what's truly frightening, he whispered. This was probably their backup plan. Imagine what other plans they have, just in case. Vale watched the celebrations, watching humans efficiently managing everything with practiced ease. The truth was clear. Humanity hadn't just planned for victory. They had planned for every possible future, and the galaxy was better for it. The Empire was gone, but something far more impressive had replaced it. A civilization planned and perfected by humanity's patient, methodical mind.